Hi.
Thank you for agreeing to be interviewed. So why are you here at Brighton Vegfest today?
The Animal Protection Agency has a stand at this event every year. We have a receptive audience, obviously people interested in veganism, vegetarianism, animal welfare. So it's important to be here. We're locally based as well, so it's good to meet our local supporters.
Animal Protection Agency do?
We campaign against the trade in wild animals as pets, and when we talk about wild animals we mean wild as opposed to domesticated. So any animals that are used to living in a certain way, in a certain habitat, and not used to living around people, we think they struggle to adapt to captivity. So reptiles, amphibians, birds, primates, a lot of exotic mammals, we believe they're not suitable as pets, and the overwhelming scientific evidence shows they're not suitable to be kept as pets in the home. So we do a lot of awareness raising about the stress and the suffering that these animals endure in private homes, and we also lobby for more restrictions or more improved conditions for these animals that are already in captivity.
Then look at this. This lizard is forced to remain bent just to fit in. A baby turtle is seeking land on which to rest, but there is none. These turtles, struggling to escape their cramped conditions, are reminiscent of the deplorable food markets of Asia. To these animals, their biological inheritance tells them they are trapped, exposed and vulnerable, and surrounded by potential threats.
What happens to reptiles when they're kept in the home?
Well, reptiles, when they're kept in captivity, they tend to be kept in glass tanks or vivariums. And you have a number of problems manifest then. You have some very obvious stressed behaviour. If you go into a pet shop and you see lizards or snakes in containers, you'll often see lizards clawing at the glass repetitively. And that's a specific stress behaviour. And it's a chronic stress, and that level of stress can actually cause the animals over a longer period to become ill, to become diseased, and to suffer premature mortality. But there are dozens of different types of captivity stress, not always easily identifiable to a layperson, but an expert can tell you that these animals are stressed in a captive environment.
Just one stress-related behaviour is called ITB, interaction with transparent boundaries. To animal dealers, pet keepers and even many veterinarians, a reptile seen clamouring at the glass, like these, attracts almost no attention. To a behavioural expert, however, ITB is an important sign of stress. Scientific assessment and even common sense says the animal feels trapped and wants out.
What can people do to help you with your campaign?
Well, the first thing to do is not go out and buy an exotic pet. You know, that's what we prefer people not to do. People can join us as a supporter, follow us on Facebook, like and share our posts. And really, there are different things they can do to support the campaign, writing to politicians, writing to the local paper, really to raise awareness of this problem. And one thing that we're pushing for is a restricted list of species that can be kept as pets, rather than it just be a free-for-all. At the moment, there are thousands of different species that are available to people to buy, especially on the internet. And what we want is for that list of species to be restricted, so only certain species of animal can be kept and traded. And things seem to be heading towards that on a European level, and we hope the UK will follow suit.
Reptiles, however, are pre-programmed for life in nature, where there are no impassable transparent boundaries. To reptiles, transparent walls are non-existent forces of confusion and frustration, and a self-feeding stressor.
What got you interested in the campaign?
This particular campaign has been an interest of mine for a few years. I started working in animal protection almost 20 years ago. And when I looked at this problem, I realised that it was a huge problem. The more you dig, the more you find, and the more horrors unfold. And I looked around, and there were certain organisations working on it, but not in a consistent way. So I thought if we had an organisation working on this as a concerted campaign, networking with other groups around Europe, we could have a great effect. And we have really achieved a lot in the time that we've been going.
Two behavioural strategies that reptiles and other animals employ to avoid threats and environmental stresses, such as outside disturbances or inside light, are escape and hide. Escape isn't working. And the inability to avoid unwanted light, or a photo-invasive environment, as it is sometimes called, stresses animals at a time when they seek seclusion.
What led you to be vegan?
I went vegan around the same time I got involved in animal protection. I've been involved, I've been vegetarian for about 10 years prior to that. But I think when you see what happens in dairy farms, in battery egg farms, it's kind of like you see the matrix, you see everything differently, and you start to realise the background to eggs arriving on a supermarket shelf, and you start to make that connection. And I think once you do make that connection, it's a lot easier to be vegan than you think, because there's a really strong purpose for not having those products, and it's become so much easier in the last few years to be vegan because of all the different alternatives that are now on the market and the broader range of foods available. And events like this really help as well, so people can see what's out there.
An estimated 90% of wild-caught reptiles die in their first year of captivity because of physical trauma prior to purchase, or because their owners cannot meet their complex dietary and habitat needs.
How do we help people find a connection between animals?
I think there are lots of groups out there, groups like Animal Aid, the Vegan Society, PETA, Viva, Compassion in World Farming. They have evidence of what happens in factory farms, in slaughterhouses, and really it's about taking responsibility for your food and what you wear and the products that you buy, because veganism is a little bit beyond just what you eat. It's about not wearing leather shoes and not wearing fur, and also trying as hard as you can not to buy products that are tested on animals if you can. So I think once you go to these places and you go to these groups' websites and you see behind the scenes as to what actually goes on, rather than the sanitised facade of the TV adverts and the products on the shelves, you look behind that, you should then start to really take responsibility for what you're consuming. And if you don't like what's going on, then don't buy into it.
Tips for anyone that's thinking of going vegan?
That's a good question, because I've been vegan for so long now, it's kind of automatic. You don't really think about it. Obviously, take your glasses to the supermarket if you're my age so that you can read the labels and things like that. And I think if you join there are lots of local social vegan groups that have set up around the country. If there isn't one in your area, then set one up, meet other vegans, and then you can swap and share ideas with them. But there are all sorts of vegan forums now that you can go on, and if there's something you're particularly struggling with, you'll get help.
Thank you.